First, so much love to you and all of those in your life today. And thank you for spending time and watching this. Now, let's get into it. I get asked often how I have the patience to deal with some of the things I read, comments I see, and how I deal with what people think they can say to me in my direct messages. Here's part of how I do it. Proximity. Let me give you an example. Someone direct messages me and starts off with a disclaimer. I promise I'm a good person with a good heart, but what do you think about this? And then they go on to share something that to me is blatantly racist. Now look, I'm not just speaking hypothetically. This happens to me all the time, believe me. If I want to actually believe that they are a good person, then I have to believe that their issue is proximity. That it's very likely that they have no people of color in their life. Sure, maybe they have a black friend, but it's also possible that they have zero, not in their personal life or in their community. Is this an excuse? No, it is not. But it does possibly lead to an explanation. I'll stumble upon a white friend of mine who assumes that I would never see their posts, but I happen to be one of the few black people that are still their friends on social media. And they'll post a slightly racist thing. I'll then see all the comments with their white friends co-signing on the post. It occurs to me at that moment that the original person who posted this never for a second imagined a person of color would be actually viewing that post. They figured all of those in their proximity would be okay with what they were doing. Now, I believe that if they were actually a good person with a good heart, they would never intentionally post something to directly hurt someone's feelings, unless they truly are just not a good person. And I'm not naive, I know that's possible. But meaning, if they had 50 people of color who were their actual friends, who often read their post, they would not only know better, but they would never have posted that said original post. Proximity. It's a telltale sign to me that someone has no people of color in their life when they say, I know Black Lives Matter, but what about ... As soon as you say that, my immediate thought is that you don't have this conversation often with actual black people. For example, I have many women friends who have sadly worked through having miscarriages. Because of that, I'm super sensitive to this issue. I couldn't possibly imagine saying to a friend, while they talk to me about their personal experience with a miscarriage, I hear you, but what about all the lives lost due to abortions? Yo! Now in this second is not the time for that, homie. And I know that because of my proximity to the woman who is standing in front of me. It's like my straight male friends that are like, ugh, yeah, I can't spend too much time with gay people. I don't need any of them trying to sleep with me. Yo, bro, you obviously don't have any gay friends, because if you did, you know you ain't hot enough for any of my gay friends to try to sleep with you. Lastly, one of the hardest things that I've had to go through this week is watching some of my white friends' reaction to the death of John Lewis. Again, a clear sign that some of them have no people of color in their life. A white friend of mine told me about a post that he shared honoring the life of John Lewis. He then had a white friend of his come along and say, I can't support anything he stood for because of some of the ways he voted historically. I can't support anything that John Lewis stood for. Do you hear yourself? Look, John Lewis was the closest thing that we as black people had to a living Martin Luther King. He was literally a disciple of MLK. History will count that you were alive when the great John Lewis passed away. Now, you may be ignorant, not in the negative sense, I mean this in the literal sense, to who John Lewis was. Again, not an excuse, but I can understand you simply not knowing. But to speak negatively of John Lewis or to not recognize his life as a highly significant loss to this country, or to not even recognize his death, tells me everything I need to know about you having people of color in your proximity. Because if you did, you would know better. You would know better. Look, I say all this with love. If you don't have the ability to empathize with those who you do not have in your specific proximity, how about you just try not speaking on things you just don't know about? It's hard for me to respect your opinion on Black lives if you don't know any.